Hey guys, Redneck Mini 14 here, and today we're going to compare the AR-15 with my favorite rifle, the Ruger Mini 14. Now these two rifles are probably the most popular semi-automatic 5.56 223 rifles on the market today. Of course, the AR-15 is most definitely the most dominant semi-automatic 5.56 rifle. But I would say that the Mini 14 is probably the second most popular, even though the AR-15 just has a plethora of options. The Mini 14 still prevails. So, basically we're just going to talk about the differences between the two rifles. By the way, this rifle here is an AR-15 that I built myself. It's an Anderson lower and upper receiver, CMMG lower parts kit, UTG buttstock and buffer tube, A2. This is an A2 style build, in case you didn't know, and a Stag Arms H-bar barrel. So pretty good build, if I do say so myself. Of course, it has the A2 carry handle. It's a detachable carry handle, and just a generic upper parts kit and bolt carrier group and charging handle. And of course, we have C Products 30-round magazines. These are aluminum, so they're kind of like GI mags, but they have an orange follower, high-vis follower. By the way, both of these rifles are empty. And of course we have the Ruger Mini 14. I bought this rifle a couple years ago, based off of the M1 Garand with the open top bolt, and it has a last shot hold open feature, which is cool. And yeah. Okay, so differences between the rifles. Of course, the AR-15 has a pistol grip, and most of the time it comes with an adjustable stock. This one doesn't, because I prefer the solid stock. You know, I'm more of a traditionalist, so I wanted my first AR-15 build to be kind of a more traditional, classic-looking AR-15, which, you know, I got with this A2 style build. So of course you got a pistol grip and a stock, whereas the Mini 14 is typically a wood stock or a synthetic stock like this. You can get it with like an ATI stock, or I don't even know who else makes them, but there are pistol grip stocks. There were even factory folding stocks with a pistol grip a long time ago, like with the AC 5.56, which is the select fire version of the Mini 14. So yeah, you can get a pistol grip configuration, but I prefer just a standard traditional wood stock, or even a synthetic stock. But I prefer the wood because I think it looks nicer and I think it feels nicer. Let's see. The barrels, at least on these two, this is a 20-inch heavy barrel, and this one is an 18.5-inch barrel. This is the standard, 18.5 inches, the standard like ranch rifle configuration for the Mini 14. So, there are other options, like the tactical model has a 16-inch barrel, and the target model, I think, is a 22-inch barrel, and it's a heavier barrel, kind of like this H-bar barrel right here. It might even be a little bit thicker, I'm not sure. And it also has a harmonic dampener, I think is what it's called, to help with accuracy. The magazine releases are a lot different. For the AR-15, you have a push button, and it locks in right here, which has become pretty much the standard in terms of semi-automatic rifles these days. The Mini 14 takes its magazine release from the the M14 where it has a rock back system. It's also similar to the AK-47. So it's a little bit slower, but it is a very strong system in terms of keeping your magazines in the gun. And it just takes a little bit of practice to get used to. As far as magazines go, of course the AR-15 has so many options for magazines. Like I said, these are C products magazines here. You have USGI mags, you have Magpul, Hex Mag, Troy Battle Mag. There's just so many options for the AR-15, and traditionally they're 30 rounders like this one here. The older GI mags were 20 rounders, but of course you can get 5, 10, I don't know about 15, but 20, 30, 40. You can get like 50 round drums, 100 round drums. You can get so many different options for the AR-15. The possibilities are just endless. Of course, same goes for just parts in general, like stocks and pistol grips and forends, hand guards rather, sights. You just have so many different options with the AR-15. With the Mini 14, you don't have quite as many options, but it's been around for so long that you do have a lot of aftermarket options. Of course, stocks, sights. There are some magazines. There are a lot of magazines for the Mini 14, but not all of them are very reliable. Heat shields and trigger groups and stuff like that. There are quite a few options for the Mini 14, but nowhere near as many for the AR-15. And as far as magazines, of course, this is a factory 20 rounder. This particular model came with 2 of these 5 rounders. These are good for hunting. And as far as factory mags go, you can also get 10 rounders, which you can use for hunting in some states. And oftentimes, some of the rifles come with the 10 rounders in, like, say, New York or maybe even California, I don't know. But traditionally, they'll either come with 2 5 rounders like this, or 2 20 rounders like this, depending on which model you get. So that's the factory 5 rounder. And of course, there are also factory 30 rounders. These are the most expensive ones that you can get. These are like $45, but they're factory 30 round magazines, and they work pretty well. As far as aftermarket mags go, you can get these Tapco Gen 2 mags. They make them in black and flat dark earth. They have the steel front strap here, and they're a plastic polymer bodied magazine. They got flat dark earth follower, and these work pretty good in my experience. Other magazines out there are Pro Mags. They make magazines both in steel and polymer configuration. Although if I was going to go with a Pro Mag, I would definitely stick with the steel. And I'd probably stick with just the steel 20 rounders, not the 30 rounders. But I might try them out, just give them some testing and do some reviews on them, just to get the word out about them, see if they're good magazines or not. Of course, there are other mag companies like Triple K, I think, and like International and all these other magazine companies that really don't have a good reputation for Mini 14 magazines. So as far as Mini 14 goes, I would stick with either factory, Tapco, or the Pro Mag metal magazines, although some people do have good experiences with the other magazines, so it's you really have to try it for yourself, really. As far as sights go, again, the AR-15 has a lot of different options for sights, but these are the traditional carry handle sights. And if we're talking about the traditional carry handle sights like this, you get 2 different apertures that they flip up. One is for long range, one is for short range, but it is a peep sight option with a winged post front sight. The AR-15 is adjustable for elevation, I believe. You stick a bullet tip down there and turn it. So that's the sights on the AR-15. Of course, you can also get flip-up sights and stuff like that. The Mini 14, at least the new models, have this winged aperture sight back here. It is adjustable for windage, and I'm not sure if it is adjustable for elevation or not. I've never tried to adjust it for elevation, but I'm not sure. And of course a winged post front sight like that. The older models just had a post and it didn't have any wings on it for protection. Takedown of the rifles is very, very different. The AR-15, of course, you have your 2 pins here. Just pop them out, and the upper and lower receivers split apart. And then you can, of course, take the charging handle and the bolt carrier group out like that, and clean it from the muzzle end, or not the muzzle end, the chamber end to the muzzle. The Mini 14, on the other hand, you gotta pull the trigger guard out and pull the whole trigger assembly out, and then you can take the rest of the rifle out of the stock and then take it apart from there. I'm not going to do it in this video because it's kind of a pain. The Mini 14 is a little bit more tedious to take apart than the AR-15. The AR-15 is very simple. Of course, the Mini 14 is not that hard. It's just a little bit tricky, and you got to get used to it. Okay, let's see, what else can I tell you? The safeties for the Mini 14, it's a grand style safety. It's in the trigger guard. If it's in the trigger guard, it's on safe. Outside the trigger guard is on fire. The AR-15 is on this side here, and it's a selector, so you push it this way, it says safe, and push it down for fire. And if this was an M16 variant, if you just flip it over one more time, that would be full auto or even 3-round burst, depending on which M16 you had. The recoil system for the AR-15 is a buffer tube, which you can't see on this one because it's inside the stock, but on the adjustable stock versions, you could see the buffer tube extending out, and you have a spring and a buffer in here, and the bolt carrier group pushes back into the buffer tube, and that's your recoil system. With the Mini 14, the recoil system is inside the stock here. The gas comes out the barrel here into the gas block and into your fixed piston, and it pushes the op rod back, and there's a spring in here. So that's another thing. The Mini 14 is a piston system, whereas the AR-15 traditionally is a direct impingement system. The gas tube comes from outside comes out of the sight post up here and runs all the way back into the bolt carrier group in here, and pushes the bolt back. And so that's a direct impingement gas system. But of course there are piston systems for the AR-15. They're just not as common, and they're traditionally more expensive than a direct impingement. But they are a more cleaner way to operate the AR-15. So, there's pros and cons to it. But traditionally, we're talking about direct impingement versus piston-driven system. And I could take the guns apart and show you all that, but that would just take a lot of time, and I don't think I'm going to have time for that. So, also the AR-15 traditionally has a flash hider or some sort of barrel accessory on the end. So this is an A2 style flash suppressor, so the gases come out the top, and the bottom here is blocked off so that gas doesn't come out the bottom, and if you're in a prone position, it doesn't like kick up dust and stuff on the ground beneath you. The Mini 14 on the ranch rifle doesn't have a flash suppressor, but on the tactical models, it does come with a birdcage flash suppressor, and of course there are aftermarket flash suppressors that you take the sight post off here, and then it comes with its own sight that's already attached, and you can put that on. So a lot of people do that, and I probably won't do that. I don't really plan on doing anything to this Mini 14 except maybe putting a sling on it. With the AR-15 here, I call this my classy AR-15. I plan on putting some ironwood designs, wood furniture on it, giving it a nice classy look. Hence the name classy AR-15. But eventually it's going to look like that. But for now, it looks like this, which is perfectly fine. I do like the look of this, and I might do a second AR build exactly like this, pretty much. But anyway, so I think that's all I can really tell you about these two rifles. Of course, again, the AR-15, it's made by dozens of different companies, and you can get parts from dozens of companies, and you can just build your own, because so many companies are making lower receivers, upper receivers. The only part that's regulated by the federal government is the lower receiver. That's the only thing you need a background check on, and your FFL fees depending on where you get the lower receiver. The Mini 14, you don't have that. The Mini 14 is only made by Ruger, which is perfectly fine. I don't mind. I really like Ruger. I really like the Mini 14. And honestly, back in the 60s, when the military was looking for a new battle rifle or an assault rifle or whatever you want to call it for their troops, Ruger was going to submit the Mini 14, but of course it didn't get there in time. Colt and Armalite, or whoever was the official maker of the M16, submitted the M16, and that obviously won the contract. So you got the AR-15, and that's how it became so popular over the years. But both of these were going to be submitted into the military's trials, but of course the M16 did win. But you never know. If the Mini 14 would have came out first, you never know. It might have made it to be the military's rifle. Because it is very similar to the M16, or not the M16, the M14 and the M1 Garand and all that. So, very similar in terms of how they break down and operate and all that. But that's not how it went. Of course, you have the AR-15, M16, which is perfectly fine. I like both rifles. There's a lot of people that bash the Mini 14 because it's not as tactical as the AR-15, and there's not as many accessories, and it's not as accurate and blah blah blah. But I like the Mini 14 more than I like the AR-15, but I do love the AR-15. It's a great rifle. They're both great rifles, and I wouldn't own them if I didn't think they were great rifles. They're a lot of fun to shoot, and of course you can hunt with both of them with the right ammunition, the right magazines, but I probably won't use either one of these to hunt, but you can if you want to. And of course, both of them make great defensive rifle options. I'm more of a Mini 14 guy, of course, so I go with the Mini 14. But you never know, I might end up changing my mind and going to an AR-15. Not this one, because this one's big and heavy, but like an M4 style AR-15. I might go to something like that. But for now, it's the Mini 14. So, anyway, that's the comparison between the AR-15 and the Ruger Mini 14. Subscribe to my channel, like me on Facebook. I'm Redneck Mini 14, and until next time, be safe.